Hey there. I promised some video tutorials up on the blog here, so today I am starting to make some laundry soap. So it'll actually be a two-part video, one where I'm making the soap that I'll use to add in with some other ingredients to make the dry powdered soap. And right now though what I'm doing is I'm just making the base of a pure lard and tallow soap bar. And so I've got everything out here, and I'm just going to do some little video clips as I go along and share what my process is for making laundry soap. So here I have some lard and tallow that I've measured out. It is 150 ounces, so I'm making 5 batches of soap all at once. I have my lye crystals. I have a Pyrex container that I will mix the water and lye into. I have a soap mold that I made out of some corrugated plastic. I have a spoon for stirring the lye and water, and then my hand blender that I will use to agitate the soap mixture until it saponifies and reaches, or until it reaches trace as it is saponifying. So those are the ingredients. I'm going to measure the water. So each batch of soap has 30 ounces of oil or fat, and each batch will have 11 ounces of water and 3.88 ounces of lye crystals. So that's the recipe I'm using for this basic lard and tallow soap. So I'm going to be multiplying that by 5 to get my 5 batches worth of soap today. Okay, so now I've measured out 55 ounces of water and 19.4 ounces of lye. And I'm going to be adding these two together very slowly. The faster the lye is added to the water, the more it will produce vapor and will have the potential to splash. And I don't want either of those, as the vapor is very irritating. It is it's not a gas, a separate gas that's produced. It is lye that can evaporate with some steam that's going to be produced through the mixing of the water and the lye. However, it is very irritating, and it can be dangerous if there's too much all at once. So the slower I pour this and the more slowly I allow this combination reaction to occur, the better. And the less chance that I'll be splashed with any of it. Now, I'm going to stir this slowly until it's all dissolved. However, I will take some breaks in between, just in case there's too much evaporation and it's irritating to me. I will never add water into lye, only lye into water. And what can happen if I was to add water into the lye, it could produce a violent eruption of lye. And so to avoid that, we do the opposite way always. So I'm going to begin by adding some crystals into the water. Just a very slow and steady stream. And I can take a break and give it a little stir. I don't want to stir it too much, just a little bit. This combination, as I said, does give off heat. It's an exothermic reaction, means it gives heat off. And you will see the water gets cloudy. And eventually you'll be able to see that there's actually bubbles being produced, and that is just like when you're about to boil some water, there's bubbles that come up. You are producing heat through this reaction. When I teach soap making classes, I'll often remark that although this process is remarkably simple, people are often afraid of this process because of the use of lye. And lye is potentially dangerous. However, it doesn't have to be. And it is something that is commonly used every day in multiple applications. You simply have to be safe. Now, for those who are new to soap making, I would recommend always wearing glasses and gloves. In fact, even if you're not new to soap making, you should do that. So I'm just going to continue adding and stirring for the next little while, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I have my mixture ready. My oil is warm but not hot. This is going to be quite hot. The container is, very hot right now. I can touch it, but if I had to hold it for very long, I would burn my hand. I also wanted to mention, whenever I'm making soap, I have vinegar on hand. This lye mixture is very basic, and vinegar is acidic, and so they will cancel each other out in terms of their effects on your skin, should you get some on you. So I always keep vinegar close by, especially when I'm going to be pouring or mixing the lye. So I'm just going to have this lid off just in case I need it. I've never needed it before. There are times when I have touched the container that the lye has been in, and I have used some vinegar, just poured it on my fingers as a precaution. However, I've never been burned by lye before. I simply take basic precautions, and that's never been an issue. So I'm going to slowly pour this lye mixture in with my oil now, and then I will begin mixing it. I'm not going to break on the video this time, as I want you to see how very fast this whole process goes from this point. So I've lifted up my lye. I'm going to pour a slow stream. I don't want it to splash at all. And you'll see there's white billowing clouds coming out as the oil begins to saponify immediately. So this process that we are undertaking is a chemical process, as the lye solution and the, and I've got a little bit of lye crystals left at the bottom there, as the oil and lye mix. And there's not much that we have to do to help that along. However, if we agitate the mixture, it will go faster. So you could stir this with a wooden spoon, and it will take anywhere from half an hour to an hour for your soap to finish saponifying, depending on the batch size that you're using. However, I'm going to use this hand blender and show you just how fast this goes. So we're just going to mix this together. Careful not to splash when you first start. And there's going to come a point where we can see that this mixture, it's not very liquid anymore. It's thickened quite a bit. And it's not because we're whipping it that it's thickening, it's because of the saponification process. And what we're looking for is something called trace. And trace means that I would be able to take a spoon and trace it through this soap mixture, and that the lines from the spoon would remain after I have removed the spoon. So it's going to be like a thick custard. And it takes just a few minutes for that to happen when you're using a hand blender. Often, when I'm teaching soap making, I always use lye as it's necessary. Always use water. However, the type of oil that you can use can vary. I prefer to use lard and tallow because that's what I have access to, and it would otherwise end up being eaten by my animals. So I can actually give a substantial amount of fat to my chickens and other animals, and I can have all of the lard and tallow that I'd like, and I can make enough soap for my family for multiple years, every single year, with the animals that we raise. So this is a great way to be really full circle about what we have and what we use on the farm, and it's a way that we've been able to take responsibility for our needs both in terms of our food production, but also the other things that we use within our life, like soap. So you'll see it's thickened already. I'm not sure if that's visible to you, but it's not nearly as liquid as it was. Now when we reach the trace stage, that is when I would add herbs or essential oils or other additives to the soap if I wanted to add something. Often I will add essential oils to scent my soap. That's typically all I use. Sometimes I'll use spices to scent my soap. I haven't used much by the way of colorants except for herbs and spices. I'm not really a fan of adding things that are unnecessary, as it A, increases the cost of the soap, and B, these are things that I would not be able to produce myself. So these are ways in which I am not being self-sufficient, which is okay in some ways. However, the most common things I will add to my soap are charcoal, activated charcoal, which is a great cleanser and purifier, and bentonite clay, which is also another amazing cleanser and purifier. Good for your health overall and good for your skin. However, because this entire batch is going to be used for laundry soap, I don't really have any reason to add anything, as I will be scenting my laundry soap, should I choose to scent it, afterwards, as I'll end up using a lot less essential oils by scenting it at this next stage where I grate the hardened bar of soap and add the other ingredients that I'll put in my laundry soap. So you can start to see that as I twirl, there's a line that stays behind. So we're at the very beginnings of trace. I could stop this now. I'm just going to blend it for just a little bit longer. So it's taken about 4 minutes for this process to occur on a batch of soap that's 5 times what I would normally make, or 5 times what the recipe that I have calls for. So you can see this hand blender makes it go so much faster. However, it is really truly not necessary. You could stir this and it will reach trace and you will get exactly the same quality of soap. It will simply take a little bit longer. Okay, so this is looking nice and thick. Now if I let this go too long, you can hear I'm running water in the back to rinse out that lye container with lots and lots of water. If I was to let this continue to mix for too long, the soap is eventually going to harden quite a bit, and that's not a problem. You still end up with soap. However, it's simply going to be harder to get it cleaned out of this container, and it's going to produce a rougher looking soap on the very top. Ultimately, that's not a big problem. The soap will work just the same. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way here. And for that, I'm going to turn the camera off for one moment.